"Excuse me, what is that smell?" That was the voice that ruined our peaceful Sunday cookout. I turned around, tongs in hand, to see HOA Karen, our overly dramatic, rule-loving neighbor, standing on our driveway, nose scrunched, arms crossed. Now, for the record, this wasn't some wild party or illegal fire pit situation. It was me, my family, and a small BBQ grill, celebrating my son James's promotion. After 12 years as a firefighter, he had just become the youngest fire chief in our district. My husband was flipping burgers, my daughter had made lemonade, and we were just about to dig into the steaks when Karen stomped in like she was about to shut down a crime scene. But none of that mattered to Karen. "Barbecues are banned now. Smoke is a fire hazard and disrupts property value," she snapped, waving a printed-out HOA guideline that I'd never seen before. Her voice was high-pitched and loud enough that even neighbors across the street started peeking through their blinds. I calmly asked her when this rule was passed. She pointed to a vague line in the document that said, "Open flames not recommended," which of course isn't the same as banned. But Karen didn't care about facts, she cared about control. "I'll be filing a formal complaint. You people clearly don't care about safety," she barked. My son James, wearing his off-duty t-shirt with the fire department logo, stood up from his lawn chair and walked toward her. He politely said, "Ma'am, I am literally a fire chief. There's nothing unsafe about this setup." But instead of backing off, Karen narrowed her eyes and said, "Well, then you should know better. Title or not, rules are rules." That's when I realized this was more than just a noise complaint. This was a power trip. She wasn't here to help the neighborhood. She was here to dominate it. And unfortunately for her, she picked the wrong family to mess with. Karen didn't just stop at threats. Oh no. She escalated things faster than anyone could imagine. The very next morning, we woke up to an official-looking envelope taped to our door. It was from the HOA, stating that a formal violation had been recorded against us for unauthorized use of open flame appliances in public view. Public view? It was our private driveway. The letter included a $250 fine and a warning that further violations could result in legal action or forced community service. My husband laughed out loud, thinking it was a prank, but my son James didn't find it funny. He knew exactly how dangerous false reports like this could become in tight-knit communities. While we were still processing it, Karen strutted by with her dog, flashing a smug smile and saying, "Hope you like paperwork." That was it for James. He wasn't just going to let it slide. He spent the next hour compiling safety reports, photographs of our properly contained grill, fire extinguisher placement, and even temperature logs, all proof that we had followed every code to the letter. He then called the local fire marshal's office to report misuse of HOA regulations, and filed a counter-complaint stating that his position as fire chief was being publicly disrespected based on a fabricated rule. James wasn't doing this out of pride. He knew Karen's obsession with fake power could lead to real consequences if left unchecked. Meanwhile, I started hearing whispers from neighbors. Turns out Karen had tried similar tactics before, from reporting a trampoline as an eyesore to getting a kid's lemonade stand shut down for non-licensed vending. But now, she had picked the wrong target. Not only was James respected in the community, he also had deep legal knowledge about residential safety codes. In a matter of 2 days, we submitted an official appeal, backed by fire department documentation and multiple neighbor signatures. The community was starting to wake up, and the tide was about to turn. We weren't just defending our barbecue anymore. We were taking a stand against Karen's long reign of intimidation. James decided it was time to take action, not just for us, but for the entire neighborhood that had been silently tolerating Karen's power-hungry behavior. He started by organizing a small community meeting right in our backyard. Word spread quickly, and by evening a dozen families showed up. Some brought lawn chairs, others brought snacks, and all brought stories. One neighbor shared how Karen tried to ban Halloween decorations because they were too spooky for the children. Another mentioned how she once reported a bird feeder for attracting pests. The more stories James heard, the more determined he became. He pulled out the HOA manual and pointed out that there was no clause banning BBQs or grills as long as they met safety standards, which ours did. Everyone was shocked. For years, they had been living under Karen's made-up rules. Then James stood up, holding a folder full of fire department safety certifications, and said, "Enough is enough. It's time we hold Karen accountable." The crowd cheered. People were tired of being bullied in their own homes. The next day, James submitted an official motion to the HOA board to review Karen's conduct as president. He also submitted all evidence of her false claims and misuse of authority. In response, Karen tried to shut it all down by accusing James of harassment. But her claims didn't hold up. The HOA board, now pressured by a growing group of angry homeowners, agreed to schedule a formal hearing. In the meantime, James made it a point to continue grilling every weekend, but now he invited the whole block. What started as a silent backyard BBQ turned into a neighborhood event filled with laughter, music, and community bonding. Karen would stand across the street, watching through her blinds, powerless. James had not only defended our family, he had sparked a community revolution. What Karen didn't realize was that her petty attempt to ban a harmless BBQ had ignited something far more powerful: unity among neighbors who had finally had enough. At the next monthly HOA meeting, which Karen chaired with her usual smug confidence, the topic of our backyard BBQ was listed as item number 3 on the agenda. The room was filled with homeowners, many of whom had shown up specifically because of the recent controversy. Karen started the discussion confidently, raising her voice to make her point sound more urgent. "Barbecues pose serious risks," she declared. "Just last month I read a blog post that warned about fires caused by grills." But before she could continue her rant, one of the board members raised his hand and interrupted her with a calm but firm voice. "Actually," he said, flipping through a folder, "we received a professional safety report from the district fire chief." He looked up and with a slight smirk added, "And his name happens to be James, the same young man Karen fined for grilling." There was a brief pause, and all eyes turned toward the back of the room, where James stood up slowly. "Yes, that's me," he said with a calm, steady voice. "I've personally responded to over 400 fire-related emergencies during my time in service. Not once have I seen a properly used BBQ grill like ours cause a dangerous incident." He paused, then looked directly at Karen and added, "But I have seen the harm caused when emergency teams are distracted by false complaints and unnecessary calls." The room fell completely silent. You could feel the embarrassment radiating from Karen as her face turned bright red. No one came to her defense this time. The rest of the board members looked uncomfortable, but determined. They immediately moved to vote on the issue, and the result was clear. 6 members voted to dismiss the violation and officially allow barbecues throughout the community as long as basic fire safety rules were followed. Karen was the only one who voted against it. Her authority, once absolute in HOA matters, crumbled in that moment. It wasn't just a loss for her. It was a complete public embarrassment, and for the first time, the community saw through her tactics. The very next weekend, we decided to host the biggest and boldest cookout the neighborhood had ever seen. It wasn't just about food anymore, it was about making a statement. Word spread quickly, and before long, the entire block turned up with plates, chairs, and smiles. James took charge of the grill like a seasoned pro, flipping burgers with flair while greeting neighbors warmly. The smell of sizzling meat filled the air, blending with the sound of laughter and clinking lemonade glasses. Families brought side dishes, desserts, and coolers full of drinks. Children ran through sprinklers on nearby lawns. Even 2 of James's fellow firefighters showed up, one in full uniform and another playfully waving BBQ tongs in the air like a victory flag. Across the street, Karen remained inside her house, blinds barely open, peeking through the narrow slits in disbelief. She had spent weeks trying to control the community with her passive-aggressive warnings and petty rules, but now she was forced to watch as the entire neighborhood came together in unity and celebration. As the laughter grew louder and the smoke drifted skyward, we hung a large homemade banner across our driveway that read boldly in red and gold, "Grillmaster, Fire Chief approved." It drew cheers and a few camera flashes from amused neighbors. James laughed and saluted the crowd with his spatula, clearly proud of the moment. But this wasn't just a barbecue. It was a symbol of something bigger. It was about reclaiming the sense of community that Karen had tried so hard to micromanage. It was about pushing back against fear tactics with confidence, truth, and togetherness. People weren't just enjoying food, they were taking part in a little flame-grilled justice, and as Karen remained hidden behind her curtains, watching the celebration unfold without her, the message was loud and clear. Her reign of silent intimidation was over. The fire she tried to put out had only spread in the best possible way, because in the end, the only thing more powerful than a clipboard and a bad attitude is having the fire chief as your neighbor. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Unfair Stories, because here we tell the stories the world wants to hide.